Let's talk about Affirm. The IPO today, absolutely surging in its debut, closing up 98%, 98.5%. For more, let's bring in Jeremy Liew, Affirm board member and partner at Lightspeed Venture Partners. Lightspeed is a large investor in Affirm and led its first institutional round of venture financing. Are you happy to see this move, Jeremy? Wasn't the whole point in postponing the IPO for Affirm to avoid this kind of extreme one-day pop?
Well, market trading, it's not something we can either control or comment on, but ultimately, the views of investors and other market conditions determine where the stock trades, and it's obviously traded up very nicely on its first day.
So what does the future hold for this company, and are investors right to be so bullish on it?
So we've been investors in Affirm since it's been 7 years now, and it's just been a steady progression for the company while we've been investors, bringing the service to more customers and to more merchants. And that's something that I think the company plans on continuing to do.
I guess, Jeremy, credit card companies would be the bracket of companies you consider as Affirm's biggest rivals. What other types of companies might be rivals, either already or in the years ahead?
I think you're exactly right. The credit card companies are right in the bullseye for Affirm. And, one of the big principles that Affirm was based on was that it wanted to be successful when its customers were successful, and to be able to provide honest, transparent financial products. And that means things like no late fees, no penalty interest rates, and things like that. And so that's why I think we have a lot of opportunity, especially with millennials and Gen Z, really seeking more flexible payment options, more flexible digital payment options and borrowing options, and finding a lot of suspicion with traditional banks and credit cards. So Affirm is planning on continuing to take advantage of those trends.
The growth is there. Revenue up 93% over the last fiscal year, up 98% over the past quarter, up to the end of September. One question I had is, how tied is it to what's happening with pandemic consumer trends? Large customers are Shopify and Peloton, which have seen their businesses surge as a result of all these consumer changes on the pandemic. So how tied is it to that, and how vulnerable could it be when we get on to the other side?
Well, certainly, as e-commerce has continued to rise, and it really saw a big bump in penetration through the pandemic, Affirm has been, a beneficiary of that. But I think we all expect e-commerce to continue to grow strongly, and Affirm to continue to grow strongly in the same way. But bear in mind that Affirm has over 6,500 different merchant customers and merchant partners. And they certainly range from, companies that have benefited from the pandemic, but also, a lot of travel companies who have definitely not been beneficiaries from the pandemic. And as we see people start to move around the country again, we'll see different sectors start to pick up. But the great news is, because Affirm is broadly distributed across so many different sectors, it really ends up being an index of all of the e-commerce success.
How much longer can this incredibly hot IPO market for tech companies continue, do you think, Jeremy?
Well, gosh, as a venture capitalist, our job is to invest in these early stage private companies, and as they grow, eventually hope to see them get public. And so, from our perspective, the longer the window lasts, the better.
You mentioned the 6,500 partners and merchants that Affirm has, but one of the criticisms and questions around this company has been the Peloton relationship, making up about 1/3 of overall revenues, and its fortunes being tied to that of Peloton, which is great right now. But is that a risk factor?
I think that Peloton has done incredibly well, on an absolute basis across all e-commerce, and I think that is the great news for Affirm, is with so many different clients and so many different merchant partners, 6,500 across many different categories. We have an opportunity to grow as anyone in the category grows. And so right now, as Peloton is doing incredibly well, it's doing incredibly well with Affirm. And as we see other companies grow, and we expect to see many more grow, with Affirm, they'll continue to grow and become more important for both the company, but also more broadly for e-commerce in general.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.